Senator Barack Obama touched down early this morning in Baghdad, his latest stop on his highly anticipated trip across South Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Obama started his trip last week, leaving from Andrews Air Force Base. On Friday, he arrived in Kuwait before visiting Kabul, Afghanistan on Saturday. He returned to Kuwait Sunday before arriving in Iraq very early this morning. Joining us now from Baghdad with more on Obama's visit is Richard Opel of the New York Times. Richard, good morning to you.
Good morning, Julie.
How is the government there in Iraq receiving Senator Obama?
Well, he's got a busy day today. He's meeting with Prime Minister Maliki, with President Talabani, with General Petraeus, and other top Iraqi and American leaders. And he's expected to talk about the future of troop levels here in Iraq and other crucial issues facing Iraq and the United States.
There was some controversy over the past weekend over an article that appeared in a German magazine because Obama was saying that he wants, if he gets into the Oval Office, he wants to start moving forward with moving troops out of Iraq. And Maliki was quoted as saying that he was in support of this. What is the latest with that?
Well, that's interesting. That's right. That's what Maliki was quoted as saying. U.S. officials then got in touch with Maliki aides and said, "You realize the ramifications of your comments and how that is playing across the world." Maliki then issued a statement claiming that he had been mischaracterized or the translation was poor. That statement was distributed by the American military. But one of my colleagues, Sabrina Tavernise, last night was able to actually gain access to the audio tape of the actual interview. And in fact, Maliki he was quoted accurately. He did express a clear affinity for Obama's 16-month proposal.
And well, it'll be interesting to see in a few hours what the two gentlemen say to each other. Richard Opel from the New York Times, thank you. Earlier on his trip abroad while in Afghanistan, Senator Obama sat down exclusively with CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent Lara Logan.
Good morning, Julie. Well, Senator Obama told us that he'd been talking to U.S. commanders and Afghan leaders on the ground here in Afghanistan, and his assessment of the situation is that it's precarious and urgent and requires immediate action.
There's starting to be a growing consensus that it's time for us to withdraw some our combat troops out of Iraq, deploy them here in Afghanistan, and I think we have to seize that opportunity. Now's the time for us to do it.
What will those extra troops do in Afghanistan? I mean, what will their specific task be, and how will it be any different from what they're already doing now?
Well, you know, in talking to the commanders here, a couple of things. Number one, if they have more troops, they're going to have more mobility and more flexibility in terms of going after al-Qaeda targets and Taliban targets. I think along the borders especially, there are a whole host of activities that right now are not being done because folks aren't freed up from the immediate day-to-day battles that are having to take place. The commanders are clear that they can use those 2 and maybe 3 brigades immediately, and one of the things that I think it's important for us to do is to begin planning for those brigades now. If we wait until the next administration, it could be a year before we get those additional troops on the ground here in Afghanistan, and I think that would be a mistake.
Senator Obama told us more U.S. troops would only be part of the solution, and an Obama administration would make pressing Pakistan a priority, pushing the government there to get more serious about clamping down on al-Qaeda and Taliban extremists operating out of its remote tribal areas. But how do you compel Pakistan to act?
Well, you know, I think that the U.S. government provides an awful lot of aid to Pakistan, provides a lot of military support to Pakistan, and to send a clear message to Pakistan that this is important to them as well as to us. That, I think, that message has not been sent.
And under what circumstances would you authorize unilateral U.S. action against targets inside the tribal areas?
Well, what I've said is that if we had actionable intelligence against high-value al-Qaeda targets, and the Pakistani government was unwilling to go after those targets, that we should. Now, my hope is that it doesn't come to that, that in fact the Pakistani government would recognize that if we had Osama bin Laden in our sights, that we should fire, or we should capture and seize.
Isn't that the case now? I mean, do you really think that if U.S. forces had Osama bin Laden in their sights and the Pakistanis said no, that
they wouldn't fire? They wouldn't go after him?
I think actually this is current doctrine. There was some dispute when I said this last August. Both the administration and some of my opponents suggested, well, you know, you shouldn't go around saying that. But I don't think there's any doubt that that should be our policy and will continue to be our policy.
But it is the current policy.
I believe it is the current policy.
So there's no change then?
I don't think there's going to be a change there. I think that in order for us to be successful, it's not going to be enough just to engage in the occasional shot fired. We've got training camps that are growing and multiplying.
Would you take out all those training camps?
Well, I think that what we'd like to see is the Pakistani government take out those training camps.
And if they won't?
Well, I think that we've got to work with them so they will.
Obama said there would be huge symbolic value in capturing or killing Osama bin Laden, but that alone wouldn't be enough to destroy al-Qaeda. Julie?
Lara Logan. Thanks, Lara.